measure it in that meridian, and then we rotate that around 180 degrees. And when we do that, it's like if you were sitting there and you could remember what the retinoscopic reflex is as you rotated that around, you could do that in your head. Well, the computer does that real well. So it ends up with a map that has about 8,000 points that tells you the refraction at each point in the patient's pupil. And then from that, it's called a spatial refractor. So unlike a Hartmann check or a churning, this thing starts out with refractive error. It doesn't have to measure the spacing to figure out anything. It's just like your retinoscope. So the autorefractor and the refractive measurements that we get are good, and it's from that data that it calculates the Zernicke's, the Fourier, and all those things that we talk about, but it doesn't, the Hartmann check goes the other way. It has to calculate the Zernicke's and all that stuff, and finally downstream you can calculate a refraction. So one starts out with the refraction as the primary measurement, the other starts out with a wavefront and has to work backwards to get to the refraction. And it's better to go from the refractive spatial points the other way than it is to try to build it up from the wavefront. That's why it's so much more accurate. None of you can refract your patients from a wavefront measurement on a Hartmann check. You know that. You can't do that today. But from this, you get a refraction that relates to what the patient sees because it's retinoscopy. It's basically automated retinoscopy 360 degrees. That's what it does. Now, when we do that, what I was saying is this thing rotates around 180 degrees, and we're not going through all the math, but basically from this one point was when it is one position, it takes it to all points, and now it can figure out what the refraction is on this patient by looking at that little sine wave and get the axis and the magnitude of a patient's sphere and cylinder by doing that. All right, here's an example. We can look at that, and that wavefront then can be in, unlike others, can be directly in diopters. So when I look at this scale here, what I see is in diopters, I see something here that changes in power. So when I get up to the red, I'm about -5. When I'm down here, I'm in the plus range. Basically, it's telling me what the refractive error is to here and here. And when we look at that patient, what we see is it's an IOL. And we can tell the power here, and we can tell the power there is that aphakic refraction. Now look, this capsule's opacified. But still, just like in retinoscopy, you can get an idea of a retinoscopic reflex to an opacified capsule. The wavefront measurement about the refractive error change in there, though, is going to give you an idea about the quality of vision in that patient also. So it'll help you in terms of being able to get a good refraction and determine something about a patient's eye. And again here, the point that I'm trying to make is this. We work in diopters. We don't work in microns. If I tell you somebody has, let's give you an example. Let's say I say to you somebody has 0.8 microns of defocus on their wavefront. What's their refractive error? Not one person knows. But if I tell you the person's -250 and he has 8 microns of spherical defocus, well, that means something. But none of us go back and forth easily unless you're a physicist. It's in diopters, so you look at maps in diopters. That's the point. So we know the refractive error at every point, and that's why these maps are in diopters. Unfortunately, converting from microns to diopters is not very accurate. That's why the spatial refraction is not very good, because there's skew rate. There's lots of reasons, but basically it doesn't work. So it's better to get that measurement in diopters in the first place.